I'm Sashi Kaufman, and I'm an author of books for kids and teens. And my book is Sardines. So, Sardines is really ultimately a book about friendship. It's a book about a group of kids sort of thrown together in their after school program. They're sixth graders, all dealing with different issues, different problems. And a new kid shows up. His name's Finn, and he comes up with this game where they're all going to collect acorn caps and put them in glass jars. And once you fill your glass jar, then you have the right to ask the group for a wish, something that you want, and or a problem, and that they're going to help you solve. And so the heart of the book is about them working together to help solve each other's problems. Everything from a girl who wants to cut her hair and her mom won't let her, another girl whose mother doesn't pay attention to her, there's a boy who's getting picked on. And ultimately, it's really about the main character, Lucas, the wish that he wants, but is afraid to open up to the group about, which is that his mom is gone and she's dealing with mental health issues, and he wants to find a way to bring her back into his life. I'm a middle school teacher. I teach seventh grade. This will be my 19th year teaching middle school, and I love it. It is hilarious. Every time I have an idea for a book, it comes from kind of a question, something that I want to know more about, or something that I think is interesting to explore. And a lot of times that starts with the kids I'm around every day. And in a different way from being their teacher. Being their teacher is about figuring out, like what's standing in their way academically, how can I, give them resources to help them be successful. But I think some of their emotional worlds are the things that I might have questions about that I don't answer in my sort of day-to-day teaching world, but that comes out in the book. So what's it like for a kid, who has a twin brother who's autistic, and he's not, but they're always sort of grouped together? What's it like for when I know a student isn't getting any kind of academic or emotional support at home? What's that like for them coming to school and interacting with their peers? So I think it's just a constant source, not necessarily of material, but like of questions. And there's just such an incredible age. I love the age, even though it is a bonkers age. It's really one of the most amazing ages to watch kids go from child to young adult, and all the ways that they're becoming independent and all the ways that they're still kids. So I mean, I find it just endlessly fascinating. I love the cover of Sardines. The only thing I don't love, and I didn't really realize this is till later, but I think some of the characters look a little young. And so as far as kids, like kids really like to read up. They don't want to read about little kids. And this isn't a book about little kids, but it kind of looks a little bit like they're fourth or fifth graders as opposed to sixth graders, which to some people might be like, what's the difference? But to kids, it's a big difference. You don't want to be holding a book that looks like it's for babies. Oh yeah. Yep. It takes place in sort of a fictitious town that I imagine is like kind of 20 or 30 minutes, like near Elliott, Maine. It's like almost on the border of New Hampshire, southern Maine, but like inland, kind of near Alfred. And that's where I imagine it takes place. The other cool thing about the cover, actually, so when the guy who made the cover, was like a New York artist, and I was trying to explain, they're in an old hunting blind, which if you're from Maine, you know what that looks like. Well, he, like, his original thing had this like nice, neat fort with like, really like railings to code, and like, it was like really like well put together. And so when I saw it, I was like, this is great. I was like, and you got to make it look rattier, this is something they're just finding out in the woods. And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah. That's the other reason I love sharing it with kids from Maine, is because that's like, yeah, you can see yourself in here. Yes, they're very cute. They're excited, but they're excited the way middle schoolers are excited, which is to say they're like, "Hey, congratulations on your book. Is there homework? What are we doing today? Are we going outside? Can I have a popsicle?" Like that's that's like but they're cute. And then there are always some who are just like, they're like blown away. They're few. But they humored me. I read the first chapter to them, and they always, they want to know, like, well, am I in it? That's always the other question. Am I in? Did you put me in it, Miss Kaufman? Like, oh, well, No. I think one of the things I did on this book that I haven't had a chance to do before, which I really loved and was really interesting, was I had sensitivity readers for both the experience of writing somebody in poverty. You know, Lucas's family does not have a lot of money, and that's not the way I grew up. And also, you know, I have Anna, she's a character who's Black, and her mom, she and her mom, that's part of the dynamic that I explored. And you know, there were some things, you know, I consider myself like a pretty thoughtful person trying to bring in like diverse voices. But there were some things I wrote that I was like, oh, how embarrassing. You know, of course, you know, a Black person doesn't blush pink, you know, but that was something I'd written. And I was like, and the sensitivity reader was amazing, amazing. Some of the things she pointed out or gave me to think about. So and the publisher paid for it too, which I also was really impressed by. That's something they're really trying to do more and more, which I think is that was a difference even just from having a book published 10 years ago than to this year. Huge difference. When I was a kid, there wasn't really YA. You went from like, you know, upper middle grade to adult books, you know, to like I remember like reading Stephen King in middle school because his writing style is accessible and you know, even though the material was like, you know, terrifying. But like I think when I started teaching middle school and I started reading more YA, I found that really inspiring. Like I kind of like started with your very like obvious YA, like John Green. Like I read John Green and I was like, what is this? I love it. I want to write like this. Another one is A.S. King. Like these are people I read not as a kid, but like as a new teacher. And I was just like, this, whatever they're doing, I want to do this.